watching, son.
Welcome back to another episode of The Short Box. My name's Ryan, and today we're going to be talking about Power Man and Iron Fist. This was the series that came out in 2016 by David Walker, Sanford Greene, and in my opinion, one of the best Marvel books that came out in like the last 10 years. It had a very short run. It ran 15 issues. Like, I remember, going into the local shop asking for recommendation, and I picked up the first 4 issues on the recommendation alone because I just trusted his opinion, and I was blown away. I loved Iron Fist, from the days of the Immortal Iron Fist when Ed Brubaker, Matt Fraction wrote that, and then later on Dwayne Swarzynski took over. But like, that Iron Fist series made me a huge Iron Fist fan. I had read a little bit of Luke Cage from his time in Avengers with Bendis. There was a Cage series by, I think, Azzarello and Richard Corbin from the Max line, the mature readers label, that I read. But most of my knowledge of Luke Cage was from his time in Avengers with Bendis. So going into it, I was very excited. Marvel had announced that they were doing the Iron Fist Luke Cage show with Netflix. It hadn't come out yet. This excited me. I flipped through it, and to be honest with you, it was Sanford Greene's art that really caught my eye. Now, if you look at the cover, you'll notice this is not Sanford Greene. This was the Scotty Young variant that I got. I do have another copy of this, but I think it was the hip hop covers variant. I couldn't find it, so I figured I would use this one. I think this is one of the most underrated series from Marvel. I definitely think it should have gone longer. I know that, I feel like it was mostly because of the shows that maybe they canceled this, because then it split off, and David Walker, who wrote this, ended up writing a Luke Cage solo series, and Iron Fist went on to have a solo series. But I think these two, not to say that they're bad separate, but there's a certain magic that comes when these two team up. From this very first issue, you'll see why. So let's jump into this. I love it. So right off the bat, you see the fist bump. The name of this arc is The Boys Are Back. David Walker's writer, Sanford Greene's artist, Lee Lorridge, color artist, Clayton Cowles on letter. For any of you that don't know, they're also referred to as the Heroes for Hire. Back in the 70s when they first teamed up. And you can even see those are their older costumes with the tiara on Luke Cage's head, open shirt for Iron Fist. Their costumes have changed since then, but anyways, so they're the Heroes for Hire. Just a quick backstory, because you guys obviously can't read this along with me, but Luke Cage is on the phone with his wife Jessica Jones, and while on the phone, she's telling him, like, you better not be starting up again. You said you wouldn't, and he's assuring her that they're not starting up, they're just hanging out. And while he's on the phone with Jessica, Danny's constantly saying, like, hey, tell her I said what's up, tell her I said what's up. And just in this one page, you instantly get a feel for the friendship that these two have. And it's just so funny that, obviously this series goes 15 issues, so they do start teaming up again, even though Luke promised that, hey, we're just hanging out. That's not what we're intending. We're here to help a friend. And then he's like, what? And Danny's even telling her, like, well, why didn't you say hi? And, like, we're best friends and stuff. We were partners. And a funny line here, he's like, oh, she likes you. She likes silent Danny over talking Danny. And, David Walker's scripts, I've just become such a huge fan of his. This book is what put him on my radar. From there, went back, got Nighthawk. He wrote some Cyborg at DC. Currently co-writing Bitterroot, which just won an Eisner, with Sanford Greene on the art of that book as well, co-written with Chuck Brown. And this is the book that started that friendship between them, which is what led into Bitterroot. And I mean, this creative team, right off the bat, the chemistry is evident in just the first couple pages. So the whole reason they're even hanging out is their former secretary's getting out of prison. We don't really get too much on her backstory just yet, but they did everything they could to help her, and they just, you know, she still ended up going to jail, but she's getting out, so they're there to meet up with her and to take her home. And here we go, and and she gets out, and obviously they're like, oh man, look, or Danny points out that, man, she looks different, she's changed a little bit. And if you look at her here, right, and then you look at how kind of like very reserved and shy she looks here, as opposed to here she's walking with a little more confidence, just the repercussions of doing time in jail. So this is where the things start to kind of heat up. She talks about her ex-boyfriend who was a criminal and how much prison changed her. I like that they called the diner Excelsior Diner, preferred eatery of superheroes and crime fighters. And basically this is where she comes and they offer their help, or Danny really is the one that leads the charge on that. And she's like, oh, I don't know if I want to ask you for help. And basically the rundown she gives them is that a necklace that her ex-boyfriend, the crime buster, got in possession of, got taken because he owed people money. And she reluctantly is asking them for help to get it back. And instantly, before they even know, they're like, oh yes, well, we got you, we'll help you. And before I flip the page, I just want to say, like, I really love this layout. This shot is very cinematic and a wonderful choice. I don't know if this was a combination of David and Sanford picking this particular shot, but I mean, it pulls you right into the conversation, pulls you right into the page. And you'll notice on the back, you'll see some people in the background, like superheroes and stuff. I don't know if this is supposed to be Stan Lee. It feels like it might, but maybe I'm wrong. And now as they get back into the car, Luke talks about how this doesn't seem right. And it seems like a bunch of fiddle faddle, which I think is funny because, Danny asks him what the hell's fiddle faddle, and in the next panel you got Jessica telling him he needs to work on that swearing, and then you have Danny telling him how Jessica keeps him on a short leash. He's but basically right here, Danny's like, man, she's family. We have to fucking help her. And yet another thing he says is he calls the guy that they're going to see a knick-knack paddywhack. And Danny's like, what the fuck are you, like, basically, like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are these words you keep using? They show up to the place. We don't know who it is just quite yet, and we only see him in shadow. They come in unannounced, but Luke alludes to having a history with this guy, and he tells Danny, keep your mouth shut, don't say a word. And we see it's none other than Lonnie Leakin, aka Tombstone. I really like Sanford Greene's take on the character. He kind of makes him a little bit creepier and less looking like a gargoyle, which is how I think some people kind of illustrate him, like a stone gargoyle. I mean, right off the bat, Tombstone's like, man, I didn't know you and Iron Man were getting back together. And he's like, actually, it's Fist, Iron Fist. And he's like, we're not getting back together. He kind of tries to talk him down. He doesn't come at him as hero to villain. He's just like, look, we're here to help a friend. We need this necklace, and we heard you had it. Tombstone doesn't take kindly to that. He calls him. He's like, "Oh, so you're calling me a thief?" And Luke's like, "No, ain't no one calling you a thief. We're just trying to help a friend, man. Because Luke's not trying to get into a fight." And sees the necklace. he tells Lonnie, okay, maybe this is just a misunderstanding. Tombstone's like, no, it's not a misunderstanding, and boom, that's when shit goes down, you know. And also of note is the dialogue that Lonnie's saying is the word balloons are smaller, the text is smaller, and that's to insinuate that he's whispering. He's got a raspy, whispering voice. It was kind of an interesting addition to the character because I don't think I'd ever seen that before. And he's like, man, you brought a living weapon into my home. You know what that means. And then Danny's like, man, I didn't even say anything. And the fighting takes place, and this is where Sanford Greene really takes off with his choreography, his fighting, his kinetic art style. It really shows on these pages. And he's like, he tells Luke, man, he's like, I told you. I know you said I wasn't supposed to talk, but I told you it wasn't going to end well anyway. Got the classic "Oh Sweet Christmas" from Luke. And he tells, and as he's fighting, he's like, man, watch out for the vest. My skin may be unbreakable, but my vest is silk. Lonnie's like, man, you don't even know what you're doing right now. You don't, like, that necklace has magical power. And he's like, you know I can't hear you fucking yelling at me with that stupid weird-ass whisper, right? Which I thought was funny. I mean, the dialogue in this book, coupled with the amazing art, just makes this book so fucking fantastic. Gives Jenny the necklace, but Luke's like, man, Tombstone said that necklace was his and won it in a card game. And she's like, oh, man, you don't think I'm lying to you, do you? Like, I wouldn't lie. And Danny sticks up for her. She's like, are we going to believe family or an ex-con like Tombstone? And here we have a great line. I'm an ex-con and so's Jenny. So they give her the necklace, hug it out. They go their separate ways. Tombstone's talking to his guys, saying, man, they're back, and, the heroes for hire are back. Jessica's like, I thought you said you weren't getting back together. Luke's like, yeah, it was a one-time thing, just a favor for a friend. And Danny's thinking otherwise. He's thinking, man, we're getting back together again. And then Jenny's talking to somebody, and we realize that it was all a ploy. She used them. She's obviously changed in her time in prison, and she got the necklace, and she's teaming up with Black Mariah. And these two got something cooking up. And it seems like Luke's intuitions were right. Danny was, just trying to look at the good in people, but he was wrong and probably should have listened to Luke. But that was the first issue. Got the cover for the second one. Yeah, dude, this is one of my favorite Marvel series of the last like 15 years. Highly recommend it. I think it's in 3 volumes. David Walker Sanford Greene. If you are reading Bitterroot, you should check this out. If you've read this but haven't checked Bitterroot, check that out as well. Probably gonna maybe hit this book back up on the channel again at some point in the future. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. You can also throw your comments or suggestions down below, or email us, thecomicloungepod@gmail.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you're notified every time we put up a new video. And on that note, I'm out.